Discover the incredible moment one soldier and his K-9 rescued a little girl whispering "Mama" in a storm. Jake had just returned to his small American town after months of serving overseas. The streets were buzzing with chatter, neighbors embracing, and kids laughing, but there was a heavy fog wrapped around Jake's heart. He felt like a ghost, roaming through memories of camaraderie and chaos that wouldn't leave him. It wasn't until he spotted Max, his K-9 partner, that the shadows began to lift. The dog bounded toward him, tail wagging furiously, and Jake knelt to meet him, feeling warmth seep back into his bones. Their reunion felt like magic, as if everything else vanished. In the chaos, there was pure joy as Max licked away the guilt that burdened Jake. But that joy was short-lived. An unsettling rumble filled the air, growing louder until it morphed into a roaring storm. Wind howled, and rain began to lash down, pelting the asphalt like a barrage of tiny arrows. The town's sirens wailed, calling for an evacuation, and panic quickly set in. People rushed in all directions, voices rising over the cacophony, calling out for loved ones. Among them, a small voice pierced through the chaos. "Mama." It trembled in the air like a lost bird, a little girl's call echoing against the backdrop of the storm. Jake's heart raced at the sound. He glanced at Max, whose ears perked at the desperate cry. There it was again, the haunting whisper of a child searching for her mother. He could see the town split into factions, some desperate to flee, and others, like himself, feeling anchored to the ground by something deeper, a calling to act. Could he find her? Doubt crashed over him as sharply as the rain hit the earth. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Gripping the leash tightly, he glanced at the worried faces around him, some skeptical, others hopeful. He took a deep breath, letting the scent of the storm refresh him. With a firm nod to Max, they plunged into the chaos, the rain mixing with instinct and purpose. Every call for Mama urged them forward, piercing through the weight of judgment and uncertainty. As they zigzagged through the tumult, they stumbled upon a girl's pink backpack, a clue, a sign. The urgency rushed through Jake like a tidal wave, and suddenly, the town, once divided, began to rally around them. Neighbors emerged with makeshift flashlights and courage, joining him for the search. A surge of warmth blossomed in Jake's chest, people he barely knew were united in purpose. Hope flickered bright against the storm-darkened sky. Yet as the wind howled louder, doubt flickered again. Would they find Sophie in time? With the clock ticking and the storm crashing around them, Jake, Max, and the townsfolk pushed through a twisting path of downed branches and blinding rain, hearts united under the relentless storm. Just as a flicker of light shone through the clouds above, he felt eyes on him, people willing to see past the shadows into the potential for redemption. But just then, a powerful gust shook the trees, and doubt again crept back in. As they shouted Sophie's name, a collective breath held tight in the air. Could they find her before it was too late? The storm raged on, drowning out the urgency in their voices. Each gust of wind carried with it a sense of dread, intensifying Jake's resolve. With his hands steady on Max's harness, he felt the dog's body vibrate with excitement and determination. The dog was focused, guided by instincts far sharper than Jake's human fears. "Keep an eye out for anything," Jake called out, rallying the neighbors who had gathered behind him. A few nodded, their faces illuminated by the flickering beams of flashlights cutting through the rain. They formed a tight network, moving as one, hearts synchronized in the desperate search. But every step felt like a battle against the relentless elements that sought to drive them apart. Max led the way, sniffing the air, every muscle straining with purpose. The pink backpack tugged at Jake's heart, a small reminder of the girl they were searching for. It felt so personal now, as if Sophie had invited them into her world, and it was their duty to protect her. As they pushed through the underbrush, the sound of falling branches echoed ominously. A collective gasp swept through the group as a large limb came crashing down a few feet away. Panic caught like fire in the air, but Jake quelled it. "Stay focused, everyone. It's still in here somewhere." The group persevered, shouting Sophie's name in unison. Moments like these, raw and powerful, are what bind communities together. Faces that were once strangers now reflected urgency and purpose, their bonds deepening with each moment spent in the storm. Then, just as Jake began to feel the weight of despair clutching at his chest, he spotted something, a flash of pink. Heart racing, he dashed toward it, calling Max to follow. A small, muddy shoe peeked out from behind a fallen tree. "Over here!" he yelled, knees slamming into the ground as he scrambled through the debris. "Max! Find her!" Jake ordered, his voice slicing through the chaos. The faithful dog barked, sensing the shift in his handler's emotions. Max darted off ahead, sniffing the ground frantically, claws gripping the slick earth like his life depended on it. The storm drummed louder, thunder crackling overhead, but Jake's focus narrowed on the ground. Could she be hidden beneath the branches? Was she scared? He swallowed hard, feeling panic twist inside him. Then, from a distance, he heard it, a faint whimper, soft yet distinct. "Mama!" The single word shattered his heart into pieces. It was a sound filled with pure innocence, full of longing and pain. "Stay close, everyone!" Jake shouted again, adrenaline surging through him as they moved toward the sound. His heart raced. Was it really her? The others fell silent, straining to listen, as they followed him closely. Another call echoed, this time louder. The desperation was palpable, resonating with every heart present. Jake felt a warmth blossom inside him amid the freezing rain. They were getting closer. In that moment, a sense of hope ignited the air, but the storm continued to hurl fierce winds around them. What if they didn't reach her in time? As they fought their way through the last few yards, Jake's breath caught in his throat. With Max leading the way, they broke through the foliage and emerged into a small clearing. In the center, cradled against a sodden old tree, was the little girl, eyes wide with fear yet bright with recognition. "Thank God!" Jake breathed, tears mingling with the rain as he stumbled forward, instinct pushing him to her. He reached for Sophie just as the world around them erupted in thunder. But more storms than just nature raged within Jake. Could he comfort her without breaking apart? He knelt before her, heart hammering, and whispered, "I've got you." But the thunder roared back as he reached out, leaving an echoing curiosity lingering in the air. Would he be strong enough to face both the storm and the demons waiting beyond it? The moment hung in the air, suspended between hope and despair. Jake's fingertips brushed against Sophie's muddy cheek, his heart aching at the sight of her trembling figure. The rain poured, soaking them both, but it was the warmth of his reassurance that sought to penetrate the chill of the storm. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now," he murmured, trying to keep his voice steady. The world roared around them, but in that small clearing, it felt like time had paused. Sophie blinked up at him, clouds of confusion mingling with relief. I thought I lost you." Her tiny voice was barely audible over the driving rain. "I'm right here," he said, pulling her into a gentle embrace, her small frame fitting against him like a missing piece he didn't know was gone. He could feel her heartbeat beneath his palm, quick and frightened. Behind him, the soft murmur of the neighbors filled the silence, a collective sigh of relief and a chorus of comforting words. "You did it, Jake." Someone called, but Jake barely registered it. All that mattered was the warmth of Sophie's body against his, the anchor amidst the chaos. Max stood close, tail wagging but ears perked, alert for anything else that might emerge from the storm. Jake glanced back, the dog's unwavering loyalty igniting his courage. Good boy, Max, he whispered, knowing the dog had been his partner in more ways than one this night. But then the reality of their surroundings crashed back. Rainwater pooled beneath Sophie's feet, and the wind howled like a banshee. "We need to get you home," he said urgently, lifting her gently. She clung to him, tiny fingers gripping his jacket as he stood, soaking wet but resolute. "Don't let go," she whimpered, a mixture of fear and trust in her voice. "I won tea," Jake promised, locking eyes with her as they exchanged a silent pact, two souls bound in an unbreakable moment of survival. He turned to lead the way back, navigating through the debris of broken branches and mud. The group surrounding them formed a protective barrier against the storm. Every shout of encouragement, every shared laugh among the worried parents as they caught sight of the duo, fueled his resolve. Just as they began to make progress, another crack of thunder split the sky, a booming reminder of nature's relentless fury. Sophie whimpered again, burying her head against the crook of Jake's neck. His heart broke once more, the echo of her fear a haunting melody. "Just hold on tight. We're almost there," he reassured her, picking up speed, driven by both desperation and love. Finally, they reached the edge of the woods, where the familiar glow of porch lights broke through the kaleidoscope of lightning. Relief surged within him as he spotted the worried faces of parents scanning the street. Sophie's mother was among them, her expression an erratic mix of terror and confusion. "Mom!" Sophie shrieked, her small voice cutting through the storm. Jake's arms lowered as he let Sophie go, watching her run toward the woman who had been frantically searching for her all night. In that moment, everything else blurred: the exhaustion, the rain, the storm. He felt a warmth spread through him, as if a light had broken through the clouds of despair. But as Sophie collapsed into her mother's embrace, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that though they had saved one girl, there were others still caught in the storm's grip, waiting for rescue. As voices filled the air with gratitude, Jake stood momentarily frozen. He felt the rain still drumming on his shoulders, but now it mingled with a new weight in his chest. Were they really ready to face whatever came next? With this thought swirling in his mind, a flash of lightning illuminated the distant hills. There, in the shadows, he saw more movement. Was it another child or a lost soul? Jake steadied himself. This was far from over. As the echoes of joy and relief filled the air, Jake's gaze remained fixed on the dark outline in the distance. The sky crackled with energy, the wind howled, but something inside him stirred a flicker of hope laced with urgency. He couldn't ignore the shadow. What if it was someone else? "Jake, what are you doing?" A voice called. It was Mrs. Thompson, Sophie's neighbor, her eyes wide with concern. "I saw something," he replied, his voice stronger than he felt. He could still hear Sophie's mother's sobs of relief mixed with gratitude, but they faded starkly against the thunderclaps. "Stay with us," someone shouted, but Jake shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "I can't just." He cut himself off. Behind him, he felt the warmth of community, but ahead lay the unknown, a child, perhaps, or someone else needing protection from the storm. Max sensed the shift in energy, his instinct kicking in as he bounded toward the dense underbrush, nosing through the chaos of fallen branches and debris. "Max, wait!" Jake yelled, running after him. Each step felt heavier as mud threatened to pull him down. He skidded but found his footing, heart racing. The raw power of the storm roared above them, but Jake's focus narrowed. He took a deep breath, pushed aside the fear that clawed at him, and followed Max into the dark veil of trees where shadow danced menacingly in the periphery. "Keep close," he instructed the dog, his throat tightening with anticipation. The sound of raindrops splashing against the leaves was a constant reminder of nature's fury. Determination propelled him forward, fueled by the soft hope that the movement he saw belonged to someone to be saved. Suddenly, they stumbled into a small clearing, and in the dim light, Jake saw what lay before him: a little boy, no older than 5, standing alone, drenched and shivering. His eyes, wide and frightened, glistened as he looked up at the stormy sky, body trembling with each crack of thunder. "Hey there, buddy," Jake said softly, kneeling down to the boy's level, trying to mask his own fear. "What's your name?" "Emmett," the boy whispered, tears mixing with rain as they streamed down his cheeks. He looked lost, vulnerable. Jake's heart swelled with a fierce protectiveness. "Emmett, we're going to get you home. Can you walk?" Jake asked, noting the boy's small frame, his clothes soaked through, clinging to skin. I can't find Mama," the heart-wrenching plea cut through Jake's resolve. "Don't worry, Emmett. I'm here to help. Just follow me," Jake urged, extending his hand. The boy hesitated but took a shaky step forward, reaching out. "Max!" Jake called, his voice steadier now. The dog was already with them, nudging the boy with his wet snout, a comforting presence in the chaos. "Can you ride on Max's back?" Jake offered, desperate to ease the tension in Emmett's small face. The boy nodded hesitantly, and Jake helped him onto the dog, who stood firmly despite the storm. The sight of Max strong and reliable seemed to bring a spark of courage to Emmett. They set off, returning to the sounds of the crowd, and with each step, Emmett's grip around Max's neck tightened. The closer they got, the more the rain felt like a mere whisper against the reality of what was happening. As they reached the edge of the woods, the golden glow of porch lights brightened the stormy night, little by little illuminating faces filled with mixed emotions of worry and gratitude. But even in that moment of hope, a chilling thought crept up on Jake. Had they found everyone lost in the shadows? Or were there still others waiting for rescue? As they approached the gathering crowd, ready to share the news of Emmett's safety, Jake couldn't shake the image of another flicker he'd seen earlier, lurking in the dark. The storm raged on, a reminder that the night was still young and danger still lurked. As they emerged from the thicket of trees, the lights flickered like stars breaking through the storm clouds above. Faces turned toward them, eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. Jake could see Sophie's mother, her hands clutched to her chest, tears of joy spilling down her cheeks. "Is that Emmett?" she called out, voice almost drowned by the raging wind. "Yes," Jake shouted, waving his arms, urging the crowd forward. "He is safe." Emmett slid off Max's back, his small frame shaking from both rain and fear. Jake knelt beside him, placing a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. "You're okay now, I promise," he murmured. But behind that promise lay the gnawing dread of still being incomplete. Where was Emmett's mother? People rushed to scoop Emmett into their arms, enveloping him in warmth, but Jake's attention drifted back toward the tree line. The flicker remained stuck in his mind, haunting him. "Jake! Thank you. You're a hero," Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, her voice rising above the chaos. She pulled Emmett from the crowd, cradling him tightly. "What about the others? Was anyone with you?" Jake's heart thudded. I saw something else back there," he admitted, fighting against the fear that crawled up his spine. "There might be someone still out there." His words didn't land softly, they hung heavy in the air, filling the space with shared apprehension. "Stay put, Jake," Mrs. Thompson insisted. But Jake was already stepping back, shaking his head. "I can't just leave them," he said, looking into the crowd's anxious faces. Max sensed the shift in energy again, his instincts flaring as he barked softly, urging Jake on. The boy's innocent plea still rang in his ears. "Mama! Wait!" shouted Mrs. Thompson, but Jake's feet were already moving, through the gathered crowd, back toward the thick woods that obscured the truth. "Jake, please!" she cried. But he couldn't turn back. Each step drew him deeper into the darkness, determination igniting within him, guiding his heart. The weight of responsibility felt immense as thunder cracked overhead, illuminating the path just ahead. Max was at his side, darting through the brush as though fueled by an unseen force. They pressed through the muck and debris. Each rustle of leaves sent a jolt of anxiety through Jake's mind. What if there really was someone else? What if they needed him as much as Emmett had? The howling wind accentuated the trees' creaks, but with each step forward, Jake felt the loss of time. They had been out here too long. As he stumbled into a broader area, he paused. Was it just his imagination, or was there a voice carried on the wind? A faint whisper threading through the storm. "Mama, mama," his breath caught. That voice. It was real. He turned to Max, who had perked up, ears alert, as if he too sensed the magnetic pull of that longing call. Jake beckoned, "Come on, Max. We're close." They navigated the underbrush, and the voice grew louder, clearer. Hope surged in his chest, a powerful fuel. "Keep barking, boy. We'll find her," he urged, heart pounding in an exhilarating mix of fear and determination. He had saved one child, but could he save another? Could he be the link to bring a mother and her child back together? The storm rumbled, crackling overhead like a live wire, yet Jake pushed on. Each step felt heavier, but his spirit soared, spurred by the urgency in that single word that resonated in his mind, "Mama." Just as they rounded a thick clump of trees, their shadows flickering against the heavy rain, Jake froze. What he saw next would change everything. A figure emerged from the darkness, heart racing. Was it friend or foe? The figure stepped closer, emerging from the shadows like a ghost materializing from the fog. Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he squinted through the deluge, desperate to make sense of what he was seeing. The outline of a woman, drenched to the bone, her hair plastered to her face. But it was the way she moved, wavering on unsteady legs, that sent a wave of recognition through him. "Mama." The voice called again, stronger this time, breaking through the frantic winds. Jake felt a jolt. The voice belonged to a child. "Mama. Where are you?" The woman's eyes widened with a rush of emotions: fear, hope, and a dawning realization. "Sophie?" she shouted, her voice cracking under the strain. A wild mix of emotions washed over Jake as he glanced back into the darkness, searching for the source of the cries. "Over here. We're coming," he yelled, his own voice barely rising above the storm's fury. Jake's mind spun with urgency. Had Sophie been taken further into the woods? He turned to Max, who was already bounding through the muck, the gleam of determination in his eyes. "Go," Jake urged, and the dog sprinted ahead, leading them deeper into the shadows where the voice echoed. As they pressed onward, the wind howled against them, but Jake felt a surge of determination. It was the promise of a reunion, the fragile thread of hope that urged him on. Every step felt like a race against time, and even in the chaos, something deep inside him awakened. It was as if the very essence of family and love pushed him forward. Suddenly, Max stopped, ears perked, tail rigid as he paused to sniff the air. Jake's heart raced. "Is she here?" he whispered, scanning the drenched branches for any flicker of movement. "Mama." The voice called again, muffled yet clear. Jake's pulse quickened. He urged Max to move, and together they pressed on, dodging the grasping branches and wild undergrowth. They broke into a small clearing, and what Jake saw stole his breath. There, huddled in a puddle of mud and rain, was a tangled bundle of drenched clothing. He moved closer, instinctively scanning for danger and crying out, "Sophie, it's Jake. You're safe, I'm here." But it was the woman, her eyes wild with worry and desperation, who reached out first. "Sophie? Where is she?" The voice trembled with panic, and Jake felt the intense pressure of dread grip his heart. "We're looking for her," he said, forcing calm into his own shaking voice. "Can you hear her? She's calling for you." Before the woman could respond, Max darted toward the tree line, barking fiercely. "Max!" Jake yelled, running after him. As they rounded a thick set of oaks, there she was, crouched low but whole, her face streaked with mud yet miraculously unharmed. Sophie. The woman cried, her words a prayer woven through the storm. Jake's throat tightened as he watched the mother and daughter leap into each other's arms, the world around them fading for just a moment. The storm seemed to quiet, the rain falling softly like a whispered blessing. But even in that beautiful reunion, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were still not out of danger. What other shadows lingered in these woods? And was everyone safe now? As the family embraced, Jake stayed vigilant, scanning the borders of the clearing. The storm may have quieted, but in his gut, he sensed more trouble was lurking just out of sight. Then, from the tree-line, a low growl echoed, sending chills down his spine. What waited there, hidden within the storm? As Jake took in the scene before him, the mother and daughter finally reunited, the darkness closing in around them, his heart raced for reasons beyond joy. He felt the shift in the air, a menacing presence inching closer, and the growl from the tree-line sent a shiver through him. "Jake!" The mother shouted, her face a mask of both relief and lingering fear. "What was that?" "I don't know," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady as he turned back towards the trees, searching for the source of that growl. The rain poured down relentlessly, but Jake's focus narrowed. "Max, stay close," he commanded, and the dog instantly fell into a defensive stance, hackles raised, eyes sharp. "Mommy?" Sophie's small voice pierced through the tension. Jake glanced back at them. Sophie clung to her mother, her body trembling, but her eyes were wide with curiosity. That innocence amidst chaos made Jake's heart ache. "Stay together," he instructed them, moving forward into the darkness, Max leading the way, nose to the ground. With every step, the growl grew louder, deeper, resonating like a drumbeat in Jake's chest. What could be lurking just beyond their sight? "Please, let it be nothing," he breathed to himself while pushing aside doubt and fear. As they ventured further, the treetops roared, the wind howling like a chorus of fury. Suddenly, Max froze, ears perked, staring intently into the shadows. "What is it, boy?" Jake whispered. Max's growl rumbled softly, signaling something was there. They weren't alone. Then, without warning, a shape burst from the underbrush, a dark silhouette darting toward them, moving with a speed that sent adrenaline coursing through Jake's veins. "Get back!" he shouted, instinctively stepping between the creature and the family. But then, the shape stopped short, revealing itself a large, scruffy dog, eyes both wild and hopeful. Jake's heartbeat steadied. This was a different kind of rescue. "Hey there, buddy," Jake said softly, kneeling down. The creature, clearly lost and abandoned like Sophie had been, crept closer, tail wagging tentatively. "But where's the owner?" The mother wondered aloud, glancing into the shadows. For a moment, Jake's heart skipped. Was this creature just a casualty of the storm, or was there something more sinister lurking in the woods? Max approached the scruffy newcomer with a cautious tail wag, sniffing it curiously, sensing it posed no threat. The storm roared on, but within this swirl of chaos, a flicker of hope ignited. As Jake petted the new dog, he wondered what it would take to bring everyone home safely. Just then, a piercing howl cut through the storm, echoing across the woods. It wasn't just the sound of nature, there was a desperation in it, a cry for help. Jake exchanged a worried glance with the mother. "We have to move," he said, urgency building in his voice. "There's more out there." "Where to?" the woman asked, her voice quaking as she gathered Sophie close. "Follow me," Jake replied, adrenaline spiking. They had to push through the storm and find shelter. Whatever was in the woods wouldn't wait. But as they started to retreat, that low growl sounded again, closer and more aggressive than before. Both Jake and the mother turned back. They were being watched, and the feeling of eyes on them was suffocating. Then a thought flashed across Jake's mind: what if we're not alone? The darkness seemed to answer with another growl, echoing through the storm. The darkness stirred, alive with the growl that resonated around them. Jake whipped around, his heart pounding like an angry drum. He could see shadows starting to move, twisting and darting through the trees just beyond the reach of his flashlight. "Jake, please," the mother gasped, and he could hear the tremor in her voice. Sophie clung tighter to her, a little girl desperate for the safety of her mother amidst the encroaching shadows. "Stay close," he reassured them, taking a deep breath to steady his nerves. But the growl intensified, a deep rumble that reverberated through Jake's bones. Max stood on alert, ready, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling of dread gnawing in his stomach. They needed to keep moving, yet instinct urged him to protect his small group. "We have to go, now," he urged, and took a step back, motioning for them to advance. As they maneuvered through the underbrush, Jake stole glances back toward the shadows. The growl was still there, low and threatening. "Come on," he whispered, trying to keep fear at bay. The scruffy dog from earlier seemed to sense the strain, moving to Jake's side, its tail still wagging but eyes brimming with an uncanny understanding. "I know you're scared too, buddy," Jake murmured. "But we need to find safety." Sophie's soft whimpers broke through the night. "I'm scared, Mommy," she cried, her tiny voice quaking. "It's okay, sweetheart," her mother cooed, though her own voice was shaky. "We just need to keep moving." Jake felt for her. They were all strung tight, playing a game with the very jaws of fear. Just then, through the rain and chaos, another howl echoed, a shrill cry that pierced the night air. It rang out, followed by silence, as if the very world paused to listen. Something was in those woods, and now a second cry was reaching them, that of anguish. "Jake!" the mother exclaimed, urgency flaring in her tone. "What if there's another child out there?" The thought hit Jake like a punch to the gut. He had always been one for saving, always believing in the good fight. But now, he felt the weight of lives, of decisions. "We can't leave anyone behind," he said, frustration tightening his voice. "Then what do we do?" she pleaded, eyes wide in the glow of their flashlight. "We search," Jake said, resolve hardening his features. "We can't abandon anyone who needs us." But just as he stepped forward, the growling intensified again, accompanied by the snap of a twig in the shadows. Something had moved, closing the distance. Max growled low and deep, instincts flaring. "Stay back!" he yelled, turning to shield the mother and child. Whatever was lurking wouldn't wait for their mercy. The air thickened, every nerve in his body electrified. Then, with a blur, the creature lunged, charging through the dark towards them. But Jake wasn't prepared for what came next. A flash of fur and fangs met his eyes, and just as the beast sprang, the scruffy dog lunged forward, both barking and growling. The scene erupted into chaos, two beasts colliding in a flurry of fur, snarls, and raw survival instinct. Head pounding, Jake felt a wave of determination wash over him. It was a fight for more than just their survival. It was a fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. "Let us go help!" he shouted, heart racing in a way that made him feel alive. As they rushed toward the fray, a chilling thought struck him: if they weren't alone in the woods, what else was hiding among the shadows? And as chaos erupted around them, he braced himself for whatever was yet to come. They were in this together now, and there was no turning back. The collision of fur and fury unfolded like a nightmare, the shadows swirling in a chaotic dance. Jake felt adrenaline shoot through his veins as he charged toward the tangle of growls. His mind focused on one thing: they had to reach the scruffy dog and the creature that threatened them. Max was already in the thick of it. The scruffy dog was a surprising little warrior, bravely nipping at the larger creature, keeping it occupied. But the odds were not in their favor. Jake skidded to a stop, fear gnawing at him. They needed a plan. "Max! Come here," he shouted, hoping the dog would hear him through the chaos. Max turned his head, a flash of uncertainty in his eyes. Jake knew he had to get control, not just for himself but for the others behind him. The mother was clutching Sophie tightly, her eyes wide and frantic as they watched the struggle. "What do we do?" she cried, desperation seeping into her words. "Stay behind us. Just trust us." Jake yelled back, feeling the weight of his responsibility crash down like a wave. The creature snarled, releasing a primal roar that made Jake's heart thump louder than ever. It seemed to sense the fear, drawing strength from it. He squeezed the flashlight, steadying the beam toward the beast's face, hoping to distract it. Every fiber in him screamed for action, for movement before it could shift focus. "Max, heel!" Jake commanded, feeling the dog's instinct kick in as it bounded back his way. The scruffy dog followed, but there was no time for hesitation. He gave Max a quick glance that said, "Let us do this." With newfound resolve, Jake pushed forward, shouting as he brandished the flashlight, aiming its beam into the creature's eyes. The sharp light caught the animal off guard, just for a moment. The growling stopped, replaced by a startled snarl. Jake seized the moment. "Now!" he yelled. Max dashed toward the beast, snapping at its legs, while Jake felt his body respond reflexively. He lunged forward, hand outstretched. They had to push the creature away, had to reclaim this space. Amid the chaos, a small voice cut through the din. "Mama." It was a whisper, delicate and full of need, but it pierced straight through Jake's heart. He looked back, searching desperately. "Did you hear that?" he asked urgently. The mother's face went pale. She nodded, her expression shifting from fear to determination. "It's coming from over there," she shouted, pointing into the shadows. Without thinking, Jake followed her gaze, ready to make a choice. Max continued to bark furiously, drawing the creature's attention back to them, but Jake knew they couldn't waste more time. It was a risk, but they couldn't abandon whoever was lost in those woods. "Hold on, Sophie," he shouted back, forcing himself to be strong. "We're going to get you both out of here." With the dog by his side, he plunged into the darkness, heart racing. The growl faded behind him, becoming a distant echo as the little girl's voice beckoned him like a lighthouse in the storm. "Jake!" the mother called after him, fear-laced with hope. "Stay close," he replied, not looking back. But inside, Jake was terrified not just of what lurked behind them but of the unknown ahead. What if the girl was trapped? What if they found danger instead? He pushed deeper into the unfamiliar territory of trees that threatened to swallow him whole. The shadows seemed alive, twisting against the flickering light. Each step felt heavy with tension and urgency. Then he heard it again, a soft, desperate "Mama." It was close now, and Jake's heart swelled with resolve. Just a little further, he whispered to himself, instinct guiding him. But as he whirled around a particularly thick tree, the screamed warning of chaos echoed once more. A realization hit him like a wave: the shadows weren't just hiding. They were watching. What waited for them beyond the trees was a question that lingered in the air, thick and palpable, just as the impossibility of their rescue seemed to hang tenuously by a thread. "Stay behind me," he said to the mother and child as he stepped toward the sound, the weight of courage settling onto his shoulders. As he reached the edge of the clearing, something moved in the darkness, a glimmer of eyes peering through, and he wondered if they were ready for the truth that lay ahead. What would they find when they finally broke through the barriers of fear? In the midst of that powerful storm, Jake stood at the precipice of fate. The unmistakable sound of a child's weak voice echoed through the trees, "Mama," pulling at his heart like an unyielding force. With a steady determination, he urged himself forward. He felt the presence of the worried mother and Sophie behind him, clinging to each other in shared fear. "Don't worry, we'll find her," Jake promised, not knowing if he could truly deliver on that vow. He felt a surge of strength wash over him as he took another step, Max at his side, guiding him through the chaos of branches and shadows. Each heartbeat felt like a tick of a clock, urging him onward. "Just a little further," he whispered, eyes scanning the tree-line, daring the darkness to reveal its secrets. Another voice came, this one timid and frightened. Mama?" It was unmistakable, a call for help, a prayer for safety. The light within Jake blazed brighter. They were close. The storm might rage, but he would not let fear tether him. As they pushed deeper into the underbrush, they broke through into a small clearing. It was dim, lit only by flashes of electricity igniting the skies above. Jake's heart sank for a moment. Nothing stirred but the swaying trees. An eerie silence blanketed the space, but then he saw her, a small figure huddled against a tree, her face streaked with mud and fear. "Hold on. I'm coming," Jake shouted, his feet finding their footing as he bolted towards the girl. Panic surged through him. Would she be okay? Could he make it in time? Just as he reached her, he felt a weight behind him, a heavy presence. The growl burst out again from the shadows, more menacing than before. Jake turned, instinctually positioning himself between the girl and the thing that lingered in the corners of the storm. "Stay back," he commanded, raising the flashlight, the beam slicing through the darkness. It caught the glint of wild eyes, revealing a figure more scared than feral, a lost dog like the scruffy one who had joined them earlier, shaking in fear, trapped in confusion. "Wait, it's okay," Jake exclaimed, lowering the light. "We're here to help." The creature remained cautious, staring at them, desperate yet yearning for companionship. Jake reached out slowly, showing he meant no harm. And as he did, he heard a faint, rising sound, a soft whimper from behind the protective embrace of frightened twigs and leaves. It was the voice of the girl who needed her mother. "Get her out of here," he urged, gesturing to the mother, whose presence had been a steady beacon. "Stay close." The mother wasted no time. She dashed to the small girl, catching her up into her arms, tightly holding her as if she could shield away the chaos. The reunion was overwhelming, sobs of relief blended with the sounds of the storm around them. Then they rushed back toward Jake, who shut down the growl of uncertainty, determined to shield this newly reunited family. "Let us go," he shouted, already feeling the urgency of the wind whip around them, pushing them to retreat. With Max leading the way, they worked through the grotesque branches and muddy ground, not allowing the storm to drown their resolve. "Can you hear me?" Sophie's mother exclaimed, her voice shaking. "Is everyone safe?" Jake nodded vigorously, knowing that together they could overcome whatever lay ahead. "We can't stop yet. There may be others out there." "Others?" Sophie's mother asked, concern threading through her voice. "Yes, anyone left behind," he replied, urgency fueling his spirit. "We need to keep moving." A rumble of thunder punctuated his statement, an unwanted reminder of the chaos that continued to unfold. With Max guiding them back, Jake's mind raced with thoughts of hope and determination. The storm may have raged, but the strength of their bonds fueled their steps. Reaching the edge of the woods, Jake took one last glance back. The darkness loomed, hiding untold stories, but he felt a sense of accomplishment. They had saved Sophie and now were rescuing Emmett. There was still a burning drive to do more. "Jake!" A voice emerged from the gathering. Crowd, confusion and hope entwined. "What happened? We were so worried." Yet the shadows still moved behind him, pulling at his consciousness. Jake turned, searching. But Max barked, and it echoed with a sense of determination that cut through the chaos. There was still a call for help. "Please, I can't leave them," he murmured. But surrounding voices could not weigh him down. The community had gathered, validating his urgency. He felt their support enveloping him. "Stay here. We can't risk it," Sophie's mother pleaded, but Jake felt the fire ignite once more. This storm wasn't just a test of nature, it was a test of humanity, of kindness and connection. "I can't walk away knowing someone else might need us," he replied with renewed resolve, turning to venture back into the gathering storm, the fading shadows welcoming him through the trees. "Wait, we'll come with you," someone shouted. Mrs. Thompson stepped forward. Jake nodded, emboldened. We're stronger together. With hearts racing and a unified purpose, they plunged back into chaos. Each voice raised for another child, another story left untold gave life to the determination pulsing through him. The storm, while fierce, could not drown out the hope rising like a beacon. The light. Mrs. Thompson called out, pointing towards a flickering in the distance. It's someone. Jake shouted, the feeling of elation and fear crashing together. They pressed forward, feeling the pulling mix of anxiety and exhilaration. With their combined strength, Jake and the neighbors surged forward into the storm, each step filled with the promise of rescue, of redemption, of healing. The storm would pass, but their spirits would shine through, echoing the unyielding power of unity. Finally, as they reached the flickering light, Jake's heart swelled. They were not just going to survive the night. They would emerge transformed. A family, a community, forever bonded by the heart's indomitable need to protect and love. And as they stepped into the chaos, Jake felt a wash of peace. In the end, the storm might test their resolve, but together, they would find their way home, bright lights guiding them through even the darkest of nights. And now it's your turn to be a part of this journey. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, every click counts, and we appreciate your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let us light up the world together.